It's Rome, and welcome to another exciting yet informative episode of Homefront. And I want to thank my PED CARES Foundation for making this possible. And we are in the beautiful dwellings. We are dwelling in the dwellings. Thank you very much to our friends at Dwellings. Now, today, I am excited because I didn't know that speaking about the elderly could be so exciting and informative to me. And I am joined by two people who are professionals in this field. So let me make sure I get your credentials right. We have Dr. Jennifer Rouse and Dr. Sammy. Dr. Jennifer Rouse is a gerontologist. So welcome, Dr. Rouse. She's also the director of the Division of Aging and has her PhD in aging. And Dr. Sammy is with us as well. He is an emergency medicine specialist with a PhD in elderly care. So guys, today we're going to talk about the elderly and some of the things that would affect them in terms of mental health, their physical health, all of those things. So Dr. Rouse, let me start with, what is a gerontologist?
A gerontologist, in one straight statement, we'll see about the biological, the psychological, and social aspects of aging.
All right.
One fell swoop.
And I want to get this elephant out of the room. Is it okay to say old people, or is it not okay to say old people? Do we say elderly? Do we say mature? Or do we say
older persons?
We say
That's
older
how it's
persons.
called
So you don't say old people at all.
Not
Do they take
necessarily.
offense by
Some
saying
do.
old people?
Some do.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're saying older persons today, right? Yes. I get that right. So older persons. All right. So we have the two big guns in terms of geriatric care with us today, and we want to get the definition in terms of age. When do you call somebody an older person? When is it considered older? Is it 60? Is it 65? Is it 70? What age is it?
The baseline that the United Nations has given it is 60.
60. So once you reach 60, you're considered an older person.
And what I can add to it, though, for those persons who, like myself, was a policy person, and you have to plan for the older persons, just as a social construct, we broke it up into 3 cohorts. 60 to 74, you are the young old. 75 to 84, you are the old. And 85 and over, you are the oldest old. So that a government will know what resources and so will be required.
Okay. So there are categories of older persons.
So just to add a little bit to that, I think it's worth just being aware that as the entire population ages, we always have to rethink this idea about what is old and what is older. So, you know, if you go back to when our parents were young, there were less people 60 and over. Correct. And that seemed like a very reasonable thing to say. When you reach 60, you are older.
Right.
Now, because there are more and more people who are 60 and older, and more is expected of them, then we have to think about them differently. And I think that is part of the thing about dividing them up into the young old and the old and the old.
Well, as you touch on that, Dr. Sammy, is that I've been reading, and the data that we have in Trinidad and Tobago is that within the next 8 to 9 years, we should see that a lot of our population would enter that phase of being considered older, where almost a quarter of our population, if I'm not mistaken, will be considered in that bracket.
Absolutely.
So let me ask, what is the reason for this? Because I thought the older people would have been a smaller part of the population, but now the older people taking over.
It comes naturally to us. Unstoppable energy. We use it to manifest a future. A future where energy takes new forms and is used in new ways for all of us. The new age of energy is here.
Now the older people taking over.
That's a different thing. I'm gonna defer to Dr.
Right.
And then I'll
So let us understand. When you have a population that is aging, or an aging population, that is a phenomenon. It means that 10% of your total population and more is age 60 and over.
10%.
10%.
And where are we
that
in
is your
Trinidad and
baseline.
Tobago?
At the last census, which was done in 2010, we were 13.4%. Now, A census is done every 10 years.
Right.
What happened in 2020? COVID.
Right.
So there was no census.
Okay.
So I've been asked this question repeatedly. So what I did in my own little trajectory, because we already know from the United Nations that by 2025, 30, we should be 17%. And by 2050, we will be 30%. Age 60 and over. So I did a little trajectory and I said, well, if at 2010 we are 13.4, then 2015 add on one more. We could be 14.4. And then add on to 2020, which has been 2021, add on one again. We will be 15.4. And you're talking in numbers now, 215,600 plus.
Right.
But you don't see us en masse. You notice I'm saying us. I'm a member of the
group. You're a member of the group. You're
honorary member.
In the young world.
So don't rush.
No, but I want with this aging population only making me feel to start a tiger balm business.
So we don't use those
so let me touch on those things one time. I heard about older people using WD-40 on their knees. They say they suck their knee with brandy. They use tiger balm. So this is real or this is just...
Because you have the oldest old still alive. You have the old because they're from old school as we call it. But it works for them, so they're fine.
So people actually suck their knee with brandy?
People do all sorts of things.
They rum, all manner of things.
Let me see if I could put that in a little context. Because we get, as doctors, we get a lot of questions. But I think more worryingly, we get a lot of people who don't want to talk about that because they feel there's a little stigma. I doing my little thing, the doctor will be vexed with me.
Right.
So I'm going to put two sides to that. One is, as you get older, a lot of what you're doing is to make you feel better, relieve your symptoms. So things like rubbing things on your joints and looking after your skin and so is about you feeling better. Far be it for me, the doctor, to say that is not making you feel better. What I might tell you is, I know it's making you feel better, but in the long run, it mightn't be the best thing for you.
Right.
I'm only saying this because as older people start thinking about their health, one of the important things is to feel that they can talk openly about how they manage their health. That's the only chance us doctors have of saying, it's okay to do this, but maybe you want to change that a little bit. That's the first thing. The second thing is that personally, I do not have a blanket fight against things like herbal medication or home remedies. What I would like to do is know what you're doing so that then I can think through it case by case, logically, and then advise you appropriately. I am not the doctor who will tell you, no, none of the bush, none of the this, none of the that. But I do need to know what you're doing because some of those things can be dangerous. And I would like to know, so at least I could make sure you're not doing anything to
So you can
harm
work
yourself.
in conjunction with traditional medicine. You could have some of those home remedies.
Yes, but we as the doctor just need to know what you're doing so we can advise you.
So guys at home who are listening, and if you may be in that category of considered an older person, don't be ashamed to tell your doctor what it is you're doing home. If it's just sapping with the brandy or whatever, home remedies or bush medicine you're using, just to let the doctor know so that you all could be aware and guide them accordingly.
Absolutely.
Now, when you spoke about healthcare, Dr. Sammy, do you think that Trinidad and Tobago's healthcare system caters for the elderly as it should?
That is such a difficult question to answer. I think the healthcare system in Trinidad has been working hard to recognize the special needs of older people and cater for them. I think there is a way to go, but this is partly because when we get into caring for older people, the whole model, how we do it, has to be very different from a younger person. If a young adult or a teenager comes to me because they fell and they twisted their ankle, I know once I manage the ankle, I give them the rest, I put them in a splint, I give them some painkillers. In 2-3 weeks, they're back on their feet and they're out doing whatever they have to do. Same injury in somebody maybe 70-something, 80 years old. I have to think, well, how did this happen? Why did they twist their ankle? Did they fall? Is it that they were in the wrong shoes? Are they getting dizzy because of their medication? Is it that their high blood pressure caused them to have a little stroke that they didn't realize? There's a lot more to think about. That's all medical. I also have to think, well, are they living alone? If they fall again, what is going to happen? Who looks after them? Are they eating properly?
Right.
Are they lonely? Who helps them remember to take their medication? Is that a problem? So medicine becomes a lot more than just medicine. It's all about, as Dr. Rouse, I'm sure will tell you, about social care, about family interaction, about psychological health. We are making strides, but there's a long way to go to completely reform the way we think about healthcare to provide for older people in a more holistic way.
Because that's what I was thinking, and Dr. Rouse, I'm now coming to you with that, is because initially I thought healthcare is healthcare.
Right, generic.
Yeah, we are all human beings. So a human walks into a hospital, you give them human care, right? Versus you carry it to a doctor, a vet. So I thinking, well, whether it's an older person or a younger person, if my finger spraying or my ankle spraying is the same care.
Correct.
So that is completely different.
Totally.
And in terms of mental health now, for the elderly or the older person, is that different as well?
Right, and what we should define first is what we mean when we say mental care.
Right.
So mental care, and I like the definition that was proffered by WHO, where they say very clearly, mental health is the state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, merely without infirmity or disease. Because before you used to think, well, I'm not sick. Once I'm in good health, I okay. No, it does not mean an absence of a disease or infirmity. So those three things I say: complete physical, mental, and social well-being. You hear the term, right? However, they have factors that impact on that, whereby you have physical, well, what we call biological. You also have socioeconomic, and I'll break all this down, and then you have environmental. Those are the three main factors that impact on that. So COVID comes, lockdown, you out of a job. Your socioeconomic gone one time.
Right.
Whether you had your masters, whether you are home.
You're home. No income.
You thought you were essential, you're now non-essential. Psychologically, you thought, well, hey, watch me. I am Dr. Rouse.
Yeah.
You know? Now your name might be on the door, but you're not there because they don't really, do we really need her? Okay? So you now have a take on your own self. And then the environment, those shocks in the environment, in gerontology they call it environmental press. Press shocks is short there for pressure. But what they say in coming into your question on the elderly, where the elderly is concerned, what we realize is when you are homebound or otherwise, you need to get stimulus in the form of a shock or challenge or something that will make you sit up.
Right.
Otherwise, but it must be a measured and what is able that you can cope with. So all part of mental health in the positive sense is your coping mechanisms. So that just how you know you have people with a low pain threshold and a high pain threshold, they have low and high thresholds for your capacity to cope.
Right.
They have some people could bounce back in like a day and just say, look, man,
yeah,
know,
that's nothing. Yeah.
And another person, they are like weathered.
Right.
They are livid.
So we're going to take, on that point, we're going to take a short pause for a mindfulness moment, because sometimes you need to just clear your mind, take a deep breath, breathe in the positivity and breathe out the negativity right here in our mindfulness moment.
I'm going to talk to you about a technique that can be really helpful if you're having trouble sleeping. This is called progressive relaxation. So we carry a lot of stress and tension in our bodies, Doing our body scans can help us check in with that. But sometimes it's helpful to have a technique for letting a lot of that tension go. So I need you to imagine that you are lying down in bed at night for this one. Just close our eyes and check in with our bodies. And what we're going to do is to really tense up your toes and your legs as much as you can. Tense, 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 and let it all go. Good job. You're moving up to your hips. You're going to tense that as much as you can. Squeeze, 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 and release. Good job. You're going to move up now to your tummies and squeeze, 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 and release. And up to our chest and our arms. So I'll demonstrate what that would look like. So you're just going to make fists and have your arms as tense as possible. Squeeze, 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 and release. Shrug your shoulders up to your ears. Have them up as much as you can. Squeeze, 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 and let it out with a big sigh. And then my favorite part is the face. So you're going to squeeze the face up. Ooh, give me a big grimace and let it all out with a big lion's roar. Letting it out can be a great way to just release all that pent-up tension. And with a big breath in and out, it's a great way to release and to remind us to be here now.
It's Rome, and we are here. We're chilling with the boys. We're liming with the kids. We're doing this all for the PED CARES Foundation. So we need you at home watching us to go donate, donate, donate. Head over to the pedcares.org and send that donation, whether it's via credit card, direct transfer, because we want to make sure that the kids of our pediatric emergency department get the best possible care that they can get, because we need to take care of the next generation. The future lies with the kids. You all ready? On three, we go and say yeah. 1, 2, 3. Yay! The PED CARES Foundation. And now we are back from our mindfulness moment. So, Dr. Rouse, you're talking about mental health in the elderly. Is there a difference when it comes to gender in mental health care?
Yes and no. Because when you study the life expectancy, right now the life expectancy, because I should preface it by saying population aging, the phenomenon, is it came about from low fertility, low mortality, and net migration, because we have a lot of people emigrating and have emigrated that have left the seniors now. They weren't seniors then, but they're alone.
Right.
So when you understand low fertility, birth rate drop.
Right.
And then low mortality, they're living longer.
Right.
The life expectancy now, even in spite of non-communicable, when you hear of NCDs, which is hitting the COVID deaths, you will understand that when I redefined what being ill meant, you can be ill without being sick.
Okay.
Because they're living with the comorbidities and taking their medication with it.
Right.
But but it makes them vulnerable to COVID now.
Right.
So that is that snapshot. But coming back to this life expectancy now, you have now where the average age for males in Trinidad is 78, average. And the average for women is 81.
So the women living longer?
Yes.
So is it that the women are stressing out the men so much that the men dying of
That was positive many times.
Sammy, I took one there.
But you know, it's a dynamic, because what we have also seen is, because of at a metabolic level now, there is a flip-flop now with the hormones.
Okay.
So men testosterone goes down. And not that he gets estrogen, but he's now more mellow as he gets older, especially in the 70s, 80s.
That is
so
why my father so calm now.
There you go. And you would hear them
before
say,
he was
because he's
tyrant.
There you go.
And now he's so
calm. And they would even tell your mom, you could go leave the grandchildren with me.
Right.
They're not interested in.
So have you never wondered why the same father who used to be berating you and beating you, if you try to do anything like that with your children, leave the children
Yes.
Your children, where did that come from?
It's a flip-flop. And then the woman now, their estrogen goes down and more testosterone comes up.
Okay.
Making them now more assertive, which is often misinterpreted for aggression.
Okay.
When they tell the husband, I want to go to so-and-so show. You want to go? Because he now mellow, eh? Total mellow. And she'll ask a second time out of respect.
Right.
But she already bought the ticket for two.
And,
Yes.
and she go in.
So
it's either she and the friend go in.
And there's another thing when they get older. They reconnect with school friends and colleagues
Right.
who, while they were studying, so they already have the tickets, they hire a maxi taxi, they don't need him to say, oh Lord, she will ask me to drop. No, we're going to the show. And that's what you're seeing. You're actually seeing it happening, you know. So what is happening now with the flip-flop? It is causing some tensions in some homes where the man is just doesn't seem interested to want to do much or go much, especially the ones who, when they were younger, they were very adventurous, going hiking, going every weekend. They went somewhere.
Right.
And now he's like, you go ahead.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
So they will find out, want to know what's happening here. But with her now, the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
And so it happened with me too, where career change. I did it at 44. I just went into university and graduated with the 3 degrees at the end of 51. I now start a new job. So I am now thrown as director of the division of aging, and I'm glad I didn't obey my father at 18 because he wanted me to do medicine. I didn't know that he had it planned. But the advantage of doing the study in aging as an older person, I am already in the thing that I'm crafting, so I know it from an internal standpoint.
Let me just add a little bit of a local color to what Dr. Rouse is saying. So one of my students many years ago, well, about 10 years ago, Dr. Munisar did a study looking at older people in Trinidad, their perception of the kind of support they have in their older years. And it was really interesting. A lot of the former research was done in Asia, and it showed that older men tended to feel and be isolated, whereas older women in Asia tended to be surrounded by family and felt looked after. Do you know, when we did this study in Trinidad, exactly the opposite came out, but it had to do with perception, and it fits so well with what Dr. Rouse is saying. The older men in Trinidad just mellowed out. And when you ask them, they said, well, you know, I happy. I sit down here watching my TV and I good.
Sport.
The older women now were healthier, had spent their lives looking after all these children and grandchildren, and now are saying, I want something out of my life. But nobody is there to support me. They're all off doing their own thing. I give all of this. Now I want something. You can't help me. So it's a different perspective.
So you're seeing a difference in the gender.
Gender,
in terms of,
age.
because, and I would say too, I would see a lot of older women forming women's groups. As Dr. Rouse would say, they have a maxi and they're going to show in Queenswall and there's a whole bandwagon and they might say, where all these cougars come out? But they're just having fun.
So I'm going to buff you up a little bit. Eh? You see that term? It bothers me.
It does.
Cougar term.
Yeah.
Because ever since the beginning of mankind, older men doing their thing, and everybody, where is our man, you know? Now women are living longer and they're healthier, and you know, they have their own desires and their needs. They are cool. What is that?
and they tell us you're robbing the cradle.
You're robbing
With the man, they would say, abs, grabs.
You get through my grabs, but you get through it again.
You get through it. That's all prejudice. That's all prejudice.
So I'm taking my buffet. I'm taking my buff. We are no longer using the term cougar on the show.
And we have to also understand, as a countervailing force to all of this is ageism.
Right.
That's a term that was used by Professor Butler.
So we're going to save that. We're going to save that because right now we're going to wrap, because we have another episode with them coming soon. Coming very, very soon right here on Home From, because we can't leave all go. We had to turn this into another episode. So guys, we want to thank you very much for joining us here for another great episode of Homefront. Thank you very much to our PED CARES Foundation. Make sure you go and donate. And thank you very much to Dwellings. My name is Rome, and thanks for joining us. of grace. A young boy, you must be in his 30s, or late 20s, 30s. Pick up this older woman, she must be in her 50s. Woman, everything in order. Wine and diners, woman.